Hi everyone, Heris here. I recently traveled to Japan for the first time, and I took a lot of pictures that I wanted to share with you all. My sister accompanied me on the trip. We chose a semi-guided tour package that's provided by a travel agency. Our package included hotels in 3 different cities, and most of the transportation between them. The cities included Minato, which is a ward of Tokyo, as well as Kyoto and Osaka. The trip was from September 21st to October 2nd, so we were in Japan for about 11 days, excluding air travel. This first video will mostly cover our first full day in Tokyo. A week before the trip, I ordered some Japanese bills to be sent to my local bank. I got 90,000 yen, which is about $600. I really like the look of Japanese bills, especially the faint purple color. Purple is a very Japanese color. They even use it on the flag of Tokyo. I wish that US dollars came in more colors. Although you can use a US credit card in Japan, I read online that a lot of vendors still only accept cash. I didn't have to use the yen as much as I thought I would, which is good. This is Newark Airport in New Jersey. I had to get there quite early for a 9 o'clock flight. Even though I took off the entire day before the flight to prepare, I still didn't get the best sleep. I had a Shake Shack mushroom sandwich for breakfast. This is our plane. Air Canada was the airline suggested by the travel agency. We had a layover in Toronto. That was a very short flight, a little over an hour. For the connecting flight to Tokyo Narita, we transferred to a much larger plane. I think it was an A220, judging by the appearance of the cabin. This is the Toronto airport. They have some nice art installations. This was actually my first time in Canada. Though I've traveled quite extensively in upstate New York, I'd never been quite as far as Toronto until now. Since we had nothing else to do, I stepped into one of those duty-free shops. I figured they must have the same stuff we have at home. Canada and the US are basically the same, right? Boy, was I wrong. The very first display I see is this. I spent like 2 minutes just trying to figure out what the hell I'm looking at, because my brain refused to process it all at once. There are these big cardboard packages with some warning about poison. There are pictures of mouth cancer and pregnant women and people with breathing tubes. Everything is over $100. Like, what the fuck is all this shit, and why is there so much of it? Is it some kind of euthanasia drug for the terminally ill? Knowing Canada, that was the first thought that entered my mind. But no, they're fucking cigarettes. I knew that other countries use more attention-grabbing warning labels to illustrate the dangers of tobacco, but this was way more intense than anything I imagined. They really take this seriously. This was a bigger culture shock than anything I experienced in Japan. And of course, if these labels discourage a certain number of people from smoking at all, that's good. But at the same time, I feel like they're just shitting on the people who are already addicted. It's not exactly an easy matter to stop smoking. If it were, most people would have stopped without such extreme labels. Nobody wants to have to constantly buy something that's killing them. And to have to look at a sick child or some gross cancer every time, that can't be a good feeling. And the fact that this huge display is right at the entrance within everyone's view makes it even weirder. Like, I don't know, maybe put that away somewhere. You shouldn't have to look at all of that if you're just here to buy some maple syrup or whatever. Anyway, mooses. Those are cool. Here's something that I just knew I had to pick up when I saw it. A Kinder egg. I didn't see any of the standard-sized individual eggs, so I got this one big one. For anyone who doesn't know, this is a popular children's candy that's sold all over the world, with the exception of the US and also Chile, supposedly. It's literally just a hollow chocolate shell with a plastic toy capsule in the center. Nothing particularly hazardous. But because of an extremely narrow interpretation of food packaging laws that are intended to prevent choking, they're banned from sale in the US. It's even illegal to import them. I, as a responsible adult, am not allowed to take this chocolate egg home with me, not even intending to give it to a child. As far as food packaging laws go, that's way more absurd than Canada's situation with the cigarettes. That's one freedom point for Canada. Good job. I may as well review this candy while I have the chance. I heard a lot about these on the playground as a kid. So maybe they're really good? Or maybe that was just kids overhyping something that they perceived as being uncommon to sound cool, like they did with the Wii U. I can peel it. Alright, hopefully I don't choke. It's a pretty big one. I didn't even see ones in a smaller size. This is what they had. Wow. It's crazy, I almost choked on this thing. Look at how chokeable this shape is. You could really injure someone with that. The chocolate itself, I don't think is very flavorful. It is milk chocolate. I definitely prefer dark. But there is definitely good milk chocolate I've had. This just isn't very flavorful in my opinion. I think the inside it may even be white chocolate, which is even less flavorful in my opinion. But you know, you get it for the cool toy. Let's see what kind of animal surprise I get. Alright, oh, it's all in different pieces. Oh no, I think I killed it by accident. Alright, here are the pieces. Let me put these together real quick. This is cool, they kind of wobble around. So you can like make it move its head, I like that. There's a little Joey, very cute. Yeah, this is a very cool toy. I was hoping for the kangaroo. Some of them have a gorilla in it, which is also cool. But I like the kangaroo, it's cute. It has a little Joey. This is a nice toy. The chocolate wasn't great, but I like the toy. I will be keeping this as a souvenir. On the loudspeaker, there was an announcement about the flight being overbooked, asking if anyone would volunteer to transfer to a different flight. It was also played in Japanese. I think they must have resolved the issue quickly, because the message was only played once. Here I am on the plane with a selection of entertainment options. It was actually pretty cold on the plane once we got to cruising altitude. I'm glad that I wore my heaviest clothes, though I did that to save room in my luggage. A small random detail that I found interesting is the design of the headphone jack. In most devices, you have to keep pushing the connector until it physically clicks into place before the music starts playing, and then to remove it, you'd have to pull with enough force to overcome the static force of the jack as it's wedged in place. But with this design, there's no clicking. I just continuously insert the connector with very little force, and the audio immediately starts as soon as it makes contact, and then I can pull it right back out. There's no catch physically holding the connector in place, so it removes easily and smoothly, but the friction is enough to hold it in place against gravity. I watched Beyond the Spider-Verse and the Mario movie. It wasn't the best viewing experience, with the noise of the plane, but what else can you do for 14 hours without internet? I played all the way through Angry Birds World Tour on this cheap, unresponsive touchscreen. That's the first time I've touched this series in over 10 years, and it was the only game the plane had that was even slightly interesting or challenging. Throughout the flight, I periodically checked in on the map. For most of the duration, the map made it look like we were flying over Russia, which would have been very bad. Russian airspace has been closed to airlines based in NATO countries due to the war in Ukraine. I'm just trying to meet Mario. I don't want to be a part of some geopolitical incident. But as we got closer to Japan, the path around Russian airspace became visible. I rested my eyes in short durations, though I didn't get into a deep sleep. They served us 3 meals over the course of the flight, which is more than I expected. For lunch, they offered a choice of chicken or beef. There wasn't a vegetarian entree option, which I found interesting. Of all countries, I'd think that Canada would be on that. So I told the steward to hold the meat, and she gave me a tray of this eclectic assortment of sides. Corn and beans, bread, a brownie, and soba noodles with soy sauce. Dinner was pretty basic. Most passengers were asleep by then. It was a tuna wrap, which I do eat in moderation, and of all things, a Biscoff cookie. The last time that I thought about Biscoff in any context, I was watching a Film Cow video. Gosh, Film Cow. Am I dating myself? For breakfast, we had the same bread, melon, and an omelet. That was pretty good. These are the first pictures I took once I was actually in Japan. Here's a nice bamboo garden, and I finally met the man himself, Super Mario! Now I can go home. Darn, I wanted to bring my pet camel Avdol with me to see Tokyo, but I had to leave him at the gate before customs. Even though it's called Tokyo Narita Airport, the airport where we landed isn't actually in Tokyo Prefecture. It's all the way on the other side of the bay. Tokyo has its own international airport called Haneda, but for whatever reason, the airport is predominantly used for domestic flights, while most planes from America are routed to Narita. We met a representative of our travel agency at the airport, and she gave us our train passes and other important information. The package also included these prepaid SIM cards for our phones, so that we could connect to Japanese mobile networks. That's a very useful addition. However, she didn't give us a PIN to open the SIM card slots on our phones, so we had to navigate without internet until we got to the hotel. We were provided with detailed notes to get to the hotel based on signs in the stations and on the streets, so it worked out. But still, it would have been good to have a PIN. By the time we got to Tokyo, it was already nighttime. This is my first view of a Tokyo subway station. There are a lot of signs and advertisements. It's a very bustling place. I like that most of the trains I saw featured some kind of unique design or artwork. This one has cute pandas. I love these big computer displays that they have on each train car. There's big text showing the name of the next stop in Japanese, English, and Korean. There's a diagram that shows up to 20 different stops in order, with the upcoming stops highlighted. And some of these lines run in a circle, like the Yamanote. If you happen to miss your stop, you may be able to get it on the next way around if you just wait. There are symbols that clearly identify the various lines. We were on the Ginza line, which is indicated with this letter G in an orange circle. This is way easier to navigate compared to the system we have at home. On a New York subway car, there's a small LED display that shows the names of stops one at a time, and that's it! This was our local station for a few days, Akasaka Mitsuke. This neighborhood has a number of hotels, and it definitely felt more touristy than Tokyo as a whole. But it's a really good location near the city center, and it's not as crowded as somewhere like Shibuya. Here's a cat cafe that was close to our hotel. We actually never ended up going there in the daytime. There were so many other places we wanted to see. We went straight to our hotel to finally put away our luggage, and to put in our Japanese SIM cards. The receptionist gave us a paperclip that was just thin enough to eject the tray. We went back out to see the city and to find a restaurant. It had started raining slightly by this time. This was actually one of only 2 times that we had rain on the entire trip. We were very fortunate in terms of weather. Most of the side streets in Minato are somewhat narrow, and clearly made for foot traffic, so I was surprised to see cars coming through at a fairly constant rate, and the pedestrians divert around them. And these are pretty big cars. I always thought of Japan as a country where small cars are more common, certainly compared to the US. Most of these look like rental cars, so maybe that's the reason why they're bigger. We only accept cash, and we don't carry chicken skewers! I wonder how many times they got that question before they decided to put up a sign. Though I can understand the confusion looking at their logo. Maybe they should just add chicken to the menu? This is something I saw a few times in Japan that I really liked. These very finely sculpted and painted models that represent the entrees that are available. Looking at a 3D model like this, you'd get a much better understanding of the portion size and the contents of what you're ordering, compared to a flat picture on a page. And I'm sure these works of art attract a lot of attention from passers-by, just for how accurate and detailed they are. Japan is known for truth in advertising. We ended up sitting down in a standard sushi bar. We kept it simple the first night. Then we stopped at a 7-Eleven, and we quickly found out that 7-Eleven is amazing in Japan. They have a huge selection of different foods, including fresh produce. You can get Japanese cash, or just make change. They let you throw out any garbage you may be carrying, and they're a lot cleaner and just more pleasant than any 7-Eleven I've been to in the US. And as we found out, 7-Eleven offers a lot of other services that you'd never expect, and that are honestly pretty funny. Supposedly, Japanese people can pay their taxes and utility bills at 7-Eleven. I guess that's more convenient than going to a government office. We bought several items to bring back to the hotel. Our hotel room didn't have a microwave oven, so these ready-to-eat foods were quite convenient. Next morning, getting ready for our full-day bus tour of Tokyo, I got my swag on. The meeting point was a short subway ride away, and we passed a McDonald's on the street. This was the meeting point. Our tour guide was a young Filipino man. He was very knowledgeable and funny. He spoke clearly in both English and Japanese. And the tour bus also provided small radio devices to which one could attach headphones for a pre-recorded audio description in several different languages. Though, of all languages, the audio guide didn't support Japanese. Most of the people in our tour group were from either the US or the UK, and there were a few Spanish and Vietnamese tourists as well.
Lastly, please fasten your seatbelt when we are driving. For the customers who use an audio player, please return it after the tour. Thank you for your understanding. Let me introduce the schedule for today. Please look at the information you have.
Our first stop was the Meiji Jingu Shrine, which is the Shinto shrine dedicated to the Japanese Emperor Meiji and his wife.
And then he decided to step up. He moved to Edo, and Edo becomes the capital, and he changed the name 1869 to Edo to Tokyo. Why? Because Tokyo means East Capital, because we are in the East, and Kyoto means Central Capital, because it was in the center. Alright, and we call this the Meiji Restoration. What did he do? Emperor Meiji opened the country. Now globalization, westernization, modernization started in Japan. Japan became a rich country again. So he did something great in Japan. That's why they built this shrine for him and for his wife. Did we get the history?
So we started walking towards the main shrine. It was still raining from the previous night, though very lightly. We didn't meet any of the Shinto priests, though we briefly saw a few of them walking in the other direction as we passed an intersection. Here's the big torii gate. Very cool. You're supposed to bow as you walk under it. This is a very common feature in Shinto shrines, a large display of wooden sake barrels. Local breweries donate sake to the shrines because it's considered to have a sacred purifying property. The shrines often give out sake to visitors during festivals. These particular barrels that were on display were used up during the previous festival, so they were all empty. Here's something that I did not expect, and that makes the Meiji Jingu Shrine quite unique. In addition to the sake barrels, there's a display of French wine barrels. Emperor Meiji was known to enjoy wine in his lifetime, so the shrine staff included wine to honor him. It makes sense, since he was the emperor who most significantly opened Japan to Western culture and trade. The shrine provides running water for visitors to clean their hands and mouths. Purification and cleanliness are important concepts in Shinto tradition.
You didn't do the mouth.
Here we are finally, in the courtyard of the main shrine. These are the famous husband and wife trees, a symbol of family harmony. These trees are married. Images to send to your e-girl and say us. Up these stairs there is a prayer box, where one can say a prayer and make a donation. You're actually not allowed to take pictures at the prayer box, though we each donated a coin. 5 and 50 yen coins are preferred, and are considered to be especially lucky. In Japanese, 5 yen is pronounced as go-en. This is a homophone for the word go-en, meaning good fortune or fate. I think that our tour guide also mentioned something about the hole in the center of the coin, and how luck passes through the hole. I don't exactly remember. There were some vending machines in the parking lot. I got some peach juice. It was quite good. There were several different tour groups there at the same time. My group was in the classic red and white Kanto bus. Here's something that got a good laugh out of us. A Real Akuma themed bus. My sister's dog's favorite toy is a stuffed Real Akuma, so this was good to see. Our next stop was the garden outside of the Imperial Palace. This is a great statue of the samurai Kusunoki Masahige, who is considered to be one of the most loyal and virtuous samurai. He helped Emperor Go-Daigo to re-establish the imperial government, after Go-Daigo was exiled by the shogun. Everything is so green, it's quite beautiful. Unlike the palace in Kyoto, the innermost building of the Imperial Palace in Tokyo is closed to the general public. We are only allowed to go as far as this bridge. On the other side of the bridge, there's a gate that opens twice per year. On those occasions, the Emperor himself steps out to greet the visitors, though I believe that the close side of the bridge is still blocked off in that case. He appears publicly on January 2nd, after the New Year, and again on February 23rd, which is his birthday. There is a different bridge that tourists are allowed to walk across fully, that connects to a different part of the palace complex. And here's a map of the whole garden. We drove through Akihabara on our way to the next stop, so I can say that I was there. After we got off the bus, we continued walking to a matcha sweet shop as a part of the tour. As I had found out earlier that day, the travel package that we purchased only covered a half-day tour, with no lunch. So after we all got our snacks at the matcha shop, we would have had to part with the group and explore on our own for the rest of the day. On the bus, the tour guide asked if anyone wanted to upgrade to the full-day tour. We were able to make an additional payment via credit card to stay for the rest of the tour. Our guide made it very convenient for us. He communicated with us a lot better than our travel agency had on that matter. We were offered the choice of either matcha-flavored beer or a matcha ice cream. I chose the ice cream, which came with this little bear-shaped piece of cake cone. Very cute. I'm not a huge fan of matcha as a flavor. It's not a bad taste, but it kinda makes me feel like I'm eating grass. Though I do think this was a high-quality product. It tastes better than most matcha products that I've tasted, and it must have been finely ground. I couldn't even feel the grainy texture of the individual grains of matcha, which is noticeable in some similar products. After our matcha snack, we kept walking for the actual lunch, which was at a fried chicken restaurant. Earlier on the bus, the guide asked if anyone wanted a vegetarian option, which is what I chose. I had this salad, as long as edamame, chocolate ice cream, and this very soft tofu product that I ate with soy sauce. I believe it's what's called silken tofu. It was all good. Some of the group finished eating quickly. They went ahead with the guide and walked to the next stop on the tour. We sat and ate for a little while longer with about half of the group, and we'd catch up with the guide later at an agreed upon time. The next stop was a famous Buddhist temple called Sensoji, and the typical route to get to the temple involves passing through a gate called Kaminarimon. We did get slightly lost at this point. The guide made it sound very easy to find the gate, and I thought that I could just enter Kaminarimon into Google Maps, and it would lead us there. But no. Maps took us to this random neighborhood that's in the opposite direction from the gate. The neighborhood just happens to be called Kaminarimon. To find the actual gate, I had to enter it as Kaminarimon Gate. Of course, mon means gate in Japanese, so Kaminarimon Gate is Thunder Gate Gate, and Kaminarimon Dori Street is Thunder Gate Street. When I got back on the bus later, I saw that our itinerary had a Google Maps link for Sensoji, which would have led me right to the gate. But oh well, we figured it out. This is the actual gate, pretty awesome and huge. There's a long line of stores all of the way down to the temple. Got your classic display of lucky cats. Of all things, this soap shop fascinated me. They had a tin full of soap foam just out in the open. I don't know how they get it to remain as such a voluminous foam for so long without losing all of its gas to the atmosphere. Japanese technology. I forgot to take a picture of the store, but I bought this nice fan for a close friend. We drew our fortunes outside the temple. I don't remember which fortunes we got, but they must have been good judging by the rest of the trip. There were these incense burners all around, outside the temple. I could smell them long before I knew where the smell was coming from.
Want an incense stick, or do you just want to use mine?
We can use yours. Our tour guide said that if you breathe in the smoke, it will make you smarter. I don't know if that's an actual traditional belief, or if it's just something he made up to be funny. Sensoji was one of the places where more Japanese people approached me unprompted to say hello. One man wanted to practice his English, so we exchanged a few sentences. By this point, we were carrying a fair amount of food packaging, and I realized that there are very few public trash cans in Tokyo. Our guide later explained why this is. Because Japan is poor in natural resources, the country takes recycling very seriously, and all of the different materials have to be properly sorted. Many larger businesses have an assigned employé called the recycling separator, and their main job is to sort recyclable items. Apparently, the government thinks that people on the street can't be trusted to put items in the correct bins, maybe because they're in a rush. And it would require too much labor to sort all of the refuse from tens of thousands of public bins, so the government got rid of them entirely. So it's common for people to carry around trash with them until they get to their home or office. This was quite inconvenient for me, but I get why they do it. And the fact that this system works at all is a testament to what a clean and respect-driven society Japan is. You could never do this in New York. There would be garbage everywhere. Another justification that I didn't expect to hear was terrorism, of all things. During the Tokyo sarin attack of 1995, terrorists used trash cans to hide chemical weapons in the subway. So that was the incident that gave the government the political will to remove most of the remaining public waste bins. I don't think that addresses the underlying problem, but alright. Anyway, I bought these mini red bean pastries at one of the shops. I've never liked red bean, but I thought I'd give it one more try. Maybe it's better in Japan. It isn't. People always say that red bean is sweet. It's not. It just tastes like beans. We passed the headquarters of Asahi Beer, which is known for its unique architecture.
And then the building on the side of it, the black building, is a torch. It's a torch. And on the top there's a flame. It's like upside down flame. It's supposed to be like standing flame, but the building behind it, they complain. That's why they make it like that. So now it looks like a golden carrot. Yeah. Alright, actually the black building, it's a restaurant. And you can order some beers over there.
The next stop was Tokyo Skytree. It's a TV broadcast tower, as well as an observation platform. It's also the highest structure in Japan, at 634 meters high. Fun fact, in Japanese wordplay, the numbers 6, 3, 4 can correspond to the syllables Musashi. Musashi is the name of an ancient Japanese province that contained what is now Tokyo. And this is the Skytree mascot, Sorakara-chan. There are 4 different elevators themed on seasons of the year. We got to ride the autumn elevator, and it goes up to 450 meters in only 50 seconds. That's probably the fastest elevator I've been on.
And the speed is 600 meters per minute. This is the second fastest elevator in Japan. You can see it on the monitor. Second fastest elevator. We'll be there within 50 seconds. 50 seconds.
Next up is the Tokyo Skytree Temple Deck, door 350.
I got some blue tea at the snack stand. It had some fruity syrup on the bottom, and I think that's pear fruit. It was good. It's a very whimsical drink, blue tea. It doesn't even look like a real drink. Like, tea isn't supposed to be blue. What? It looks like something that a character in a video game would drink. So this is the sight from the observation deck. You know, the Tokyo area is often cited as the largest metropolitan area in the world. That certainly sounds impressive, but I often thought of it as a meaningless distinction. I mean, you can circle any number of nearby cities on a map and call it a metropolitan area. That doesn't automatically make that area particularly special. It's really just a convention that governments use for statistical purposes. And city planning varies greatly between regions of the world, so there's often no direct comparison to be made. But seeing it in person, I will admit that there's something significant about the sheer vastness of the Tokyo area. There are dense, interconnected cities as far as I can see, in all directions. It's really a marvel of modern technology and planning. There's this cute little spot where one can pay to have their picture taken. I really like this coin-operated digital tower scope. Most tower scopes I've seen, they're basically a pair of binoculars, so you'd have to put your head right up into it to see anything. But this big digital screen is great for showing multiple people from a comfortable distance.
Oh, it zooms in. It zooms in with this
Oh,
button.
nice.
There is a second, higher viewing deck that they call the Galleria. We bought tickets for the short elevator ride up. It's cool to see the inner structure of the tower through this window. I actually prefer that over the season theming of the other elevator. What? People on the ceiling? But it's just a mirror. I know that they've had art exhibits up here in the past, but there wasn't anything too interesting when I was there. It's very much the same as the lower viewing platform. It is less crowded, so maybe it would be worth the money just for that, if you're hanging out for a while. We had to wait online for the elevator down to the parking garage, and we cut it a lot closer than we would have liked. We just barely made it back to the bus before it left. We passed by a famous sumo hall on the bus, and there was a junior sumo wrestler in front, apparently greeting some fans.
The name of the place is easy to remember, the Ryogoku Kokugikan. You might see some sumo wrestler around, please look around. Sometimes they're walking around here. Oh, over there in front. Oh, he's... Over there, he's wearing red. Oh, he's a junior one. He's very small yet. That guy. He's still junior.
Seeing a sumo match is something that I had thought about. It's not something that I'm personally interested in, but it may be a good way to engage in Japanese culture if the circumstances line up right. We found out that the last day of the ongoing tournament was the day after this tour, and we had other plans for that day anyway. Here we are on a beach in Odaiba, which is actually an artificial island in the Tokyo Bay.
You maniacs! You blew it up!
And we got on this tour boat to see the bay. Look at this! It looks like a spaceship. It has a very futuristic design with its low profile and translucent blue windows. This is a freaking cool boat, though we spent the entire time on top of it. I wanted to get on a boat at some point during this trip, so I was glad to check off that box so early. Just seeing the bay from this perspective was great. The main feature that the guide drew attention to was the famous Rainbow Bridge. The bridge lights up with several colors at night, hence the name. Supposedly, the height of the bridge was determined to accommodate the Queen Elizabeth II, which was the most famous cruise ship in the world at the time, in 1987.
左手に見えます小さな島は第6台湾です。1853年に来航したヘリー・ディスクリティ黒船艦隊を使いました。
Its designers hoped that the sight of the Rainbow Bridge would attract more international cruises to Tokyo Prefecture. Ironically, the bridge's existence may have led to a decline in Tokyo's cruise market. Over the years, cruise ships have gotten larger and larger, and some of the newer models wouldn't fit under the Rainbow Bridge. Several Japanese cruise companies have moved their headquarters to Yokohama, south of Tokyo. We saw Tokyo Tower across the water. The designers of Skytree actually wanted it to be twice as high as Tokyo Tower, but that height would have been a bit too high to realistically achieve with the technology that was available, so they settled for the Musashi number instead. Here's the boat that we were on, the Hotaluna. The name appears to be a portmanteau of the Japanese word for firefly and the Latin word for moon. That was the end of the tour, and we passed the Olympic Stadium on the bus ride back to the meeting place. Hi, so we got back to the hotel. I didn't want to share a video of the main room because I had clothes all over the place. The room was smaller than what I'm used to, but comfortable. It was what I expected in a major city. I can show you the bathroom. Here's a curtain that I could pull up if I wanted to look into the room for any reason. But the fixture that shook me the most in my entire time in Japan was this toilet. I'm not going to talk about the bidet. We all know what that is by now. Nobody cares. What really surprised me was the seat. It's heated. That was so foreign to me. I am not used to sitting on a warm toilet seat. If you had to press a button to turn on the heat, that would be understandable. I could accept that. But this seat was already fully heated the second that I stepped into the bathroom. It's always prepared, eternally watching, waiting for a butt. But what if I don't want a warm butt? I didn't see a button to turn off the heat, but even if I did, it wouldn't cool off instantly. And how much energy does that use? And by the way, where's the heating element? It's not in the ceramic. That's cold to the touch. Even the bottom of the seat isn't noticeably warm. It must be in the plastic of the seat itself. But it's not any heavier than a normal toilet seat. I don't feel much resistance when I move it. How the hell does this thing work?